Welcome back to the show, everybody. Check out these headlines we have for you today. We've got the Chamber of Digital Commerce, Cody Carbone. You're going to want it. Uphold, BIS, Ripple. How about this? HSBC, Northern Trust, $145 trillion market. But what happens if XRP happens to capture some of that market? You're going to love it. And check this out. Link to John Deaton. It's not about if they'll use XRP, it's how soon it will be adopted, the implications of the Torres ruling, and more. Somebody roll that beautiful intro.
Digital Perspectives with Brad Kimes. Come on in.
Welcome back to the show, everybody. You can follow us on Twitter and YouTube for exclusive content. Right now, $1.1 trillion market cap for cryptocurrency. The market is up 1.2%. Well, that's nice because the last few days we've seen a bloodbath, but nevertheless, the prices are still reflecting the fall. 26,100 for Bitcoin right now. We see 1675 and change for Ethereum, and we see $82.6 billion market cap for Tether, and XRP is now at 54 cents, climbing back up 8.2% in the 24-hour range, and still off by 13% on the 7-day. Whoa, let's get into this. Glint Pay, ladies and gentlemen, no better time to take in consideration of becoming your own personal alternative to banking. And the way to do that is by using physically allocated gold in your MasterCard debit card through Glint, where you can buy, save, send, and spend real gold instantly with Glint. And now you can put the repeat buy on so you can constantly get your gold into your account and spend it like money should you need to. I don't know of a better time in the world to take advantage of this sponsor's offer right here. Click the link underneath the video. Let's talk about Bitcoin ETFs real quick here, and ETFs in general. It says every single one of the top 15 best performing equity ETFs this year is crypto related. Furthermore, Bokunis says here that a spot Bitcoin ETF would send North American crypto ETF volumes to 99.5% of the global market. Check that out. But I had a chance to sit down with the one and only Cody Carbone from the Chamber of Digital Commerce, And I have to say, it was a fantastic conversation. Cody, thank you for stopping by the channel. It really was, and I look forward to many more conversations with you and Perry Ann. We talked about the importance to get Congress to pass legislation for all of crypto. Because to the point of the ETFs, and the ETFs are an exchange-traded fund, right, around these assets, we need to get clarity for all of the crypto space because Bitcoin and all crypto need clarity to be in law and not in opinion. Listen to Cody Carbone from the Chamber of Digital Commerce.
We were discussing, I hear people say in the same breath that Bitcoin and XRP having the only clarity going forward. And look, I tell people, I said this in an interview I did yesterday with James Murphy. I said it to you today. I'm going to say it to the audience again. I do not bring this up as a maxi. I bring this up as a concerned investor in this space. He didn't know of any case that has legal clarity for Bitcoin outside of a regulatory opinion. Are you aware of anything that has a legal ruling to speak to Bitcoin?
We're really relying on that agency precedent, and which is coming through those agency statements. The CFTC has come out for, I think it was 2015 was the first time they said Bitcoin is a commodity. The SEC chair has had statements where they've said Bitcoin is a commodity, but it's not in law. It is not in law. And, no matter how comfortable we can feel relying on that precedent, because it seems to be an accepted opinion that Bitcoin is a commodity, until it is in law, we shouldn't feel that comfortable. Which I know I'm not trying to scare anyone out there because, again, I think it seems to be accepted belief, but we need that to be ingrained in law. We need a statute that says Bitcoin and some of these other assets are commodities, and that's when we can feel comfortable about the regulatory framework going forward.
I think you just hit it on the head, because to me it's exactly that. This is about getting legal clarity for the entire market, right?
And there you have it right there. And it really is. And until we have it, we are going to have these ups and downs like no other market, honestly, because we do have a lack of clarity and obviously an overabundance of ambiguity courtesy of the SEC. Now, here is where we got some clarity. And we know XRP in and of itself is not a security. And we know that that is speaking to, or beginning to speak to, this market. And this is very interesting to see how all of this is going to play out, because this ruling from Judge Torres has just really happened. So it's going to be interesting to see how the market starts to wake up to this ruling and how they respond to it as we go forward. But meanwhile, what we do know is going forward since the ruling is Ripple has announced an official partner of the Cross-Border Payments and Interoperability Extension Task Force, a subgroup within the Bank of International Settlements, which is the central bank of central banks. Now, we covered this when it came out. I think it's massive that Uphold is putting this out and showing the emphasis of how important and what an incredible moment that is for Ripple and the BIS. Here it is right here. We can see Ripple on the board with MasterCard and so many others. But think of this for a moment. $145 trillion market. Northern Trust working with HSBC. Reminder, Marcus Treacher, formerly of Ripple, came from HSBC, put out a $14.5 trillion prediction. Northern Trust is one of the largest financial institutions, and they are directly telling you it's game on in their documentation. Now, let's take a listen to this really quickly here from Cypress Demonacor and that whole crew that are just killing it over their own research. Give them a follow.
Let me again remind you all and show you physically why they don't want you freaking involved in this digital asset space. Northern Trust working together with HSBC. If you're not too familiar with who Northern Trust is, let me just fill you in. Northern Trust is one of the largest banking institutions in the United States and one of the oldest banks. Okay, let's just take a second and look at what they have to say. The rise of a new asset class. DLT and tokenization have the potential to reshape financial markets by creating new asset classes and enabling new business models, both of which will accelerate change. And then if we scroll down here, this is what's really going to blow your freaking mind. Asset servicers know that they are operating in an evolving world. We expect that by 2030, approximately 5 to 10% of all assets will be digital. Considering that global assets are expected to rise to $145.4 trillion by 2025, this is a substantial number, and it will only continue to increase as technological innovation drives change. So let's just do 10% of $145 trillion. Okay, you guys can see that number right here, right? Well, let's just subtract 10% from that. That is $14.5 trillion. You all see now why they don't want you involved? Again, this isn't make-believe from me. I'm not making these numbers up.
No, he's not, is he? And it is an impressive number. And what you have to ask yourself, and I wanted to do this for fun, imagine XRP capturing just 10% of this total market by 2025 that was just shared there. If that was a daily flow for XRP could reach $1,305.88 per coin. This is according to Susan Athey from Ripple, Robert Mitchnick from BlackRock, head of digital assets, calculator that was created years ago. You don't believe me? Go look for yourself on XRP LHQ and put in 14 trillion daily flow, calculate, and you come up with $1,305.88 XRP. Look, I'm not suggesting it's tomorrow morning. I never do. I have no idea when it'll come or if it'll come to that degree, but I believe that it's possible, and I've always been enthusiastic about it because, see, I got into this space in the early days because I was a global importer, and I had a company that required wiring money around the world. And I quickly found out where the friction and the pain point in wiring money through SWIFT was. And I tell you, I have never been so excited about a company and a digital asset that can absolutely ease the friction in the world of payments and cross-border settlement, from everything from remittances to wiring money from SMEs to banks like I was doing, or whether you're talking about settling derivatives. I believe there is a huge use case for XRP and Ripple, the company, and I am here for it. No doubt about it. Well, let's take a look at this now. I did some digging. I went back. Can I go back? I want to go back. Go way back. Yeah, I went way back. This goes back to 2020 here. Ripple's chief compliance officer at the time, now special advisor, if she's still there, Karen Gifford, who says, I honestly don't know how any bank can comply with those Dodd-Frank rules if they're not using Ripple. That's what she said, and I'm going to play it so you can hear her say it. And for whatever reason, Twitter doesn't want me to post it right now. But when it's ready, I will. But I want you to think about this after I listen to this clip. Take a listen.
I'd just like to pick up a little bit on what you were saying, Patrick, about whether or not these technologies enable compliance in a setting where there's trust, which is obviously where my company's focus is, right? So on the banks and financial institutions that do have these regulatory requirements, it's interesting to see that sometimes these open protocols actually make compliance more straightforward and easier. So like with the Ripple protocol, there's point-to-point settlement. Implications, very positive implications for things like the new fee pre-disclosure rules under Dodd-Frank. I honestly don't know how any bank can comply with those rules if they're not using Ripple. I mean, I'm not saying that to
Nothing sells like fear. Just
right. If you don't know in advance where the payment is going and what fees are going to be added to it before the recipient gets it, it's extremely hard to comply with pre-disclosure. And my understanding is that what banks are doing in order to comply is just raising their fees so that there's a cushion, so that they don't get caught under disclosing the fee, which is really the opposite result of what everyone was hoping for with that regulation. So the banks that we're seeing that are integrating the Ripple protocol are really excited about the fact that because the settlement is point to point, they can pre-confirm what the fees will be and disclose it to their customers in advance.
So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. So there you have it. Let me stop that real quick here. This is what really fascinates me about this. Chief Compliance Officer for Ripple in 2020 doesn't understand, honestly, how any bank can comply with those Dodd-Frank rules if they're not using Ripple. And who was an architect of Dodd-Frank? The former U.S. Treasury official and Ripple advisor, Michael S. Barr, who just happens to be the current vice president of the Federal Reserve Board of Governors. How about that? How about that, right? Pretty remarkable is what I'm seeing there. And again, just to show you here, Karen Gifford, and look at this background. Special advisor for global regulatory affairs for Ripple. Previously, Miss Gifford, worked as an attorney in the private sector and at the Federal Reserve Bank of New York. How about that one? Where she was counsel and officer in the litigation and enforcement group who work at the New York Fed, included successful defense of claim by Central Bank of Iran, raising the hostage crisis of over $1 billion and co-heading an investigation into misconduct into the sales and trading of complex leverage derivatives at Bankers Trust. Later, she was a senior director of Promontory Financial Group, which has often been said to be a three-letter agency think tank. And then here where she advised global banks and financial companies on regulatory issues and conducted investigations. She's also holding a degree from Yale and Vassar. How about that? Yeah, I'm excited. And then there's this. Watch this clip here. Let's go to geopolitical landscape. We're 2 days away from BRICS coalition. Listen to this really quickly.
The standard of living of all Americans can be traced back to here, the vast oil-rich deserts of Saudi Arabia.
In the early 70s, after the Arab crisis happened with the oil embargoes, OPEC basically tripled the price of oil to the Western world. And at that time, America realized that they were vulnerable because they were importing about 70% of all the oil they consumed.
To secure a
And we know the rest of the story. And the point is that in 2 days, we may find out, or 4 days after the summit, we may find out that Saudi Arabia does join BRICS, as it's been mentioned, because they have formally applied. And if they do, that would signal to anyone that the abandonment of the Petro agreement is in play. And if that happens, you have to wonder where Saudi Arabia would go and the other oil-producing nations around the world. Very, very interesting. But what I want to talk about here is, first, it was a gold standard behind the dollar. Then it was the Petrodollar agreement. What will be next? I believe it's possible that we could see a value protocol like the XRP ledger and XRP to back the US dollar with all the money, all things tokenized of value, representing the backing of the US dollar going forward. What else could shore up the US dollar, not only so it could preserve its strength, but continue to serve as a world reserve currency? It would be the complement of an asset that could bridge and settle everything of tokenized value around the world. Now I want you to hear this. If it's not if XRP will be used, but how soon. What an incredible conversation this was from Link 2. And they're sitting down talking to John Deaton about the latest in the case and the implications of the ruling from Judge Torres. And I tell you, I'm liking what I'm hearing, and I think you're going to as well. And don't forget, you can get Ripple Private Equity on Link 2 by clicking the link under this video. Get it before it's gone. Take a listen to this clip. Shout out to Nick Burafado.
We see a situation where, yes, this legal quagmire continues, but the Ripple net system and the use of ODL can still take place. And the question is, will somebody step out and do it? Or are they going to wait for this to be completely over?
I would advise them to look at Uphold and the advantage that Uphold had by not delisting XRP and looking at their growth, looking at their revenue stream of XRP. And so is there some kind of corporate attorney who's so conservative, he or she's going to say, well, it's best to wait until all appeals are exhausted? Well, you could be waiting 7 years because that would include the Supreme Court. I believe that the smarter ones are going to and take advantage of this law, if you will. I have no doubt it's going to be utilized. Question is, how soon?
And there you have it. It's really waiting on the markets to wake up to the implications of Judge Torres's ruling, is what John Deaton's sharing there. He's also shared the idea that, as we've talked about here, I believe that this case has to go the distance to the Supreme Court of the United States to get absolute legal finality and legal clarity and precedent set so we can have the Ripple test along with the Howey test and the Reeves test. But that's just my 2 cents, and it's not financial advice from me. It's just my digital perspectives. And here we can see right here from Eggrag Crypto says, keep watching that Atlas line because, yes, the $27 XRP we've all heard about for so much, it's still on the board, baby. Again, not financial advice from me, him, or anyone else. It's just my digital perspectives. I'll catch all of you on the next one.